Trust is our ability to rely on the expectation of someone or something. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't really do too well when people put expectations on me. But the truth is, our ability to function highly in the world is highly dependent upon the belief that we have somebody that we can rely on. There was a mother and a child that they did this study with. They put the two into a kindergarten classroom, of course, with a bunch of toys and colors and things to manipulate, and just to see what would happen. So the child, once it recognized where it was and what was all around, it detached from its mom, and he started to play with all the different toys and things. Now, in the second half of the experiment, they took the mother out of the room with the child not knowing that she had left. Soon, the child started to, get a little distraught. He started to want that connection back together, and he stopped playing with the toys and the things that he was interested in altogether. Then they brought the mom in, and after a short period of time of reconnection, the child went back to again playing with the toys. And so trust matters. Our ability to connect and rely on that connection really can be an incredible lubricant for trying to get through society. Why don't we try to cultivate more of it? I have a theory. I think it's because we don't trust ourselves. Either way, let's talk about it. Welcome to the month of trust. Trust in everything. Everything. We trusted everything but the boogeyman, right? We had vulnerability down packed. We would throw ourselves on the floor. We would laugh hysterically, run all crazy, just thinking and knowing that everything would be okay. Trusting that we wouldn't get hurt. We'd climb on monkey bars and do crazy things. We were eating leaves. If you were from where I'm from, don't judge me. They had to tell us, don't talk to strangers. We just had all this trust because we listened to that inner voice that was real for us, and we followed it. And it really took our parents, of course, trying to raise us, to come in and eventually start to replace our inner voice with their bigger voice of, I know what's best for you. If you had parents that were invalidating to your feelings sometimes, you know how that is, like, just chalk it up, suck it up, you're not really hurt, that's not what happened, and that sort of thing. Because we're so small and your parents are your world, you develop shame for listening to your inner voice. So to survive that and to get your needs met, love and affection and attention, you might have created a false self that's all about pleases and thank yous, because you were taught that that's the way, and the way that you're going to get your needs met. And so our goal is to try to travel back there and to listen to that guidance, because if you're seeking truth and trust in everything outside of you, it's because you don't trust yourself. And it feels 10 times worse when that person doesn't live up to your expectation of who you relied on them to be. And then you have nothing if you don't have something to fall back on inside yourself. But I have to say, I think that a lot of spiritual authors, self-help books, of course, and even some religions have been a really great coping mechanism, especially within the past, decade or so, to help people not relate to each other. You know, you'll find in some of those communities really independently empowered people that have really crappy relationships. The bigger question is, if, you know, at the core of all spirituality, religion, you know, self-help is love, making our way back there and to there and, you know, living in that space, others are a big part of that. And so how are we supposed to cultivate that and get to love without even that relating piece that is all built on trust? Trust is two people taking responsibility for self and the other person's best interest. And so the important question that you want to ask yourself is, you know, what is this other person's best interest? Do I even know? And if you don't know, it's about creating that intimacy with that person first, before you jump into a relationship, before you become friends or what have you. You know, discover what this person's best interest is, because if you don't know that and you can't make good on their best interest, or you think that there's going to be a conflict, that there's a conflict between their best interest and your best interest, you should not get into a relationship with that person, because you don't deserve to be trusted by them. You will violate it at some point within that relationship. Think about two businesses trying to come together to collaborate. One business comes to the table fully prepared with what they want. They've got their proposal, what they're prepared to sacrifice, what they're prepared to do for the other company and benefit them in the ways. And the other company comes to the table without any of it. They don't know what they want. They don't know how to, you know, make the other company, you know, make it worth it to work with them. And it's not really for the other company to tell the company that doesn't know what it should want, but that's what ends up happening, you know, because the one company that is prepared is gonna say, oh, you don't know what you want? Okay, well, here's what we're gonna do. And that's what happens in relationships. When you come not knowing what your best interest is, loving relationships, romantic relationships, friendships, then you're allowing the other person to sort of trump your own sense and your own needs, so that, you know, and you're trading it in for what it is that they want. You know, and when you go around not trusting people, naturally you attract people that don't trust people. And I'm sure that you don't want that either. You know, lack of self-confidence, self-hate comes from you abandoning you. It comes from abandoning your feelings, not listening to them, not obeying them, not honoring them. And so this self-trust work is really, really important to creating not only trust, but the type of life that you want. So I'm going to go through 7 ways that you can build self-confidence and reliance in the following areas: character, ability, your strength level, and your truth. Number 1, and the absolute most important, identifying your boundaries and respecting your boundaries. So how do you violate your own boundaries? When you say yes and you really mean no. You know, when you give too much just to feel valuable. When you have sex and you really don't want to. You know, when you feel guilty for saying no. When you don't speak up for yourself or advocate for yourself, and you allow others to make you feel uncomfortable. These are all ways that you're violating your own boundaries. And so you really don't trust yourself in certain situations, because if we constantly do this, then what can we count on? Number 2 is acknowledge your strengths and your gifts and your virtues and all the things that you do really, really well. All of the things that just naturally come easy for you. In a world where everybody has a different perspective, there's no 100% right answer. And so you can begin to let that go and start to lean on your natural faculties, naturally the things that you excel in. Start to list those out so that you can be aware of them. Number 3, start to take some risks. You got to show yourself what you're made of. And once you hit the wall a couple of times, you're actually practicing that muscle to get back up again, and trust that you will if you continue. So go out there and take some risks. Do some things that, you know, will shake up yourself a little bit. I can't believe I did that. That's an instant constant confidence booster. And even if you didn't do it 100%, or maybe it fell apart, you actually took the steps to put yourself through it. And so that builds an incredible amount of trust. You lose 100% of the races that you don't run. So get out there and prove to yourself that you can be trusted. You're good. Number 4, take responsibility for the consequences and the decisions that you're making. So every time you blame somebody else, naturally you're putting yourself in the powerless seat, which of course breeds more mistrust. Like, you can't trust yourself because people are gonna be out there to harm me, right? So instead of blaming other people, go ahead and take responsibility for whatever has occurred in your life, and realistically all of it, because at some point we made the decision, or we felt the warning sign, or whatever it was, and we allowed it to happen. By allowing ourselves to feel those consequences, we're actually more likely to get the lesson out of it, because we're letting in the situation and getting feedback of what we should do differently. If you blame, you're kind of deflecting all of that, and you never really learn from it. Number 5, start to be more authentic. When you can show yourself that you can be out in the world and be completely yourself, that is a huge truth and trust and confidence and everything wonderful and nice little package builder, because you realize that you could always have yourself and others. And in addition to that, it's about integrity. So pick one area of your life at a time and just start to bring some more integrity into those moments or into those areas, so that you can build more authenticity. So, another important one, number 6, acknowledge how you trust yourself already. This might be one of the most hardest questions of all, or it could be the easiest question, but regardless, when you come up with those answers or you land upon that understanding, that's going to be an instant self-trust builder. And number 7, one of the most important ones also, all of them are important, but this one, start to listen to your feelings. This is how we talked about that we lost the self-trust in the first place, because we're not paying attention to our feelings. We've been taught that our feelings are bad. We've been taught that it's not worth, our feelings are high and low and they can't be trusted, right? But that, I realistically believe in my heart, God's voice is through our feelings. It's through our feelings. When you don't feel right. You knew when Day was doing something crazy, the warning signs, or TT, you knew what was going to happen, but you didn't trust your feelings, right? It's a big one. Okay, so start off small, okay? Just allow yourself to feel and listen to the feeling in one area of your life. Mark my words, you're going to find out, I think, that it's God's voice. You're going to know. But just start off in one area. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Now, yes, some days you feel like a nut, some days you don't. And the difference between intuition and insecurity feelings are very different. So you got to listen to that intuitive feeling, that feeling that's in your body. It's not up in your head, and it's not ever second guessing you. It's typically second guessing something else external. It's giving you an intuitive vibe, right? That's how you tell the difference between insecure thoughts and intuition. Again, you feel it in your stomach. It's a gut feeling, right? All of those things will help you to distinguish that. And there is a major distinction. So I'm with you on the feelings are high and low. But listen to those intuitive thoughts. That is God's voice. And you had it when you were a kid. You had it. And so we're making our way back there. So start to listen to your feelings. Start to acknowledge them. Instead of not tolerating them and having no compassion for yourself like we were taught, bring some of that in so that you can start to trust yourself again. You got to trust yourself on that level too, that you're going to give yourself that loving, unconditional care that maybe you never had before. And if we did have really strong self-trust, then we would be able to kind of forgive the person that didn't live 100% up to our expectations, right? We will be able to give a lot more rope and a looser hold on, trusting somebody that maybe wasn't all that trustworthy, because we knew that from the beginning. When you trust yourself and go through those steps, you know that this person wasn't going to make out on your best interest. So when they show up the way that you knew that they were going to show up, it's not so devastating. To be able to practice this forgiveness and this resilience that we always talk about, it's really about having this firm foundation of trusting yourself, knowing your boundaries, proving to yourself that you can be trusted by taking risks and by being aware of your virtues and your values. And so ultimately, nobody has these answers but you. It's my personal mission, as well as 360's, to help you return to you. That's what these talks are all about. So thank you guys for listening. And in the month of trust, I hope you have an amazing month practicing all things trust. Have a great month.